Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here on Play on GAA with me, Seamus Brady, your host for this one. I am joined once again by Luke Peyton, and we're also joined by our special guest, friend of the show, Matthew Hurley, the GAA Statsman. And in this episode, we are going to give a full preview for all four of the men's Gaelic football division finals, which are going to be taking place over the weekend. So I'll come to you first, Matthew. Obviously, the league this year has been fascinating, a lot of great games to look forward to. And then, of course, Cork finishing the league on a bit of a high there, coming back from 8 points down against Derry. How have you enjoyed the league this year?
Yeah, definitely enjoyed the league, definitely. And thanks for having me on again, lads. Brilliant channel on YouTube, definitely. It's been an up and down league campaign from a Cork point of view. Like, you look at the first game against Meath was a bit of a disaster. Then we got a few wins, got a few good performances, especially against Dublin. Then lost a load, and then got that late goal to Ian Maguire against Derry. So, brilliant result there. But I suppose the be all and end all would be the championship. We play Clare in 2 weeks' time. We have to win that in Munster to progress even further. But in the league in general, I've been really impressed with many teams, especially Louth in Division 2 have been a breath of fresh air. Fermanagh in Division 3 getting all the way to the final. We'll discuss them in a sec, but they've been outstanding. Most people predicted them to finish in the relegation zone, and especially Wicklow and Sligo, the stories there in Division 4. And of course, the Connacht dominance in Division 1 as well. There's an argument that that's better than Ulster. So, yeah, very interesting league campaign, and definitely have enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, without doubt. So we are going to get into our finals. We're going to go from top to bottom. We're going to go from Division 1 down to Division 2, 3, and then 4. So we're going to start with the first game, the Division 1 final, which will be the last one played on the weekend on Sunday at 4 o'clock. The clash of the Connacht rivals, Mayo against Galway, happening in Croke Park. Luke, I'm going to come to you first for this game. The last time that these two sides played each other in Croke Park, obviously Mayo got the victory that day. That was the 2021 Connacht final. Do you think that is playing any role going into this game here? Obviously, they played each other so many times, but last time they were in Croke Park, it was Mayo's day.
No, I don't think it makes much of a difference, really. No, I think both teams are very, very different from what they were the last time as well. And Mayo won it that day as well. But you have to say Mayo look in a lot better shape at the moment than where they are now. They look better set up. They look better kind of organised, and they look like, even though they won that day as well, but this is an entirely different Galway team. Like, Padraig Joyce was manager back then as well. But how many years are we into his evolution now? And they just seem to have that bit of steel about them. And this is a really hard one to call, really, as well, because you've kind of got a few things with Galway, with Comer coming back in. Does he start? That's an interesting one as well. Like, earlier on during the year, Walsh wasn't coming back in at the start, and then you've had other players step up, like Tierney as well, who've been huge. So I think it's an interesting one. It's a tough one to call. Hard to know where both teams are at the moment. But I do think, though, that Galway have this kind of bit of steel about them at the moment now, that I think if you look back at that fixture in Croke Park, there was nearly this feeling about Galway that, they were winning at half-time in that game as well, but they rolled over in the second half, and they kind of, like, you wouldn't say down tools, but they, in that particular game, like, they let Mayo get on top of them anyway as well. And I just don't think that with all the work that Joyce has done in recent years, that it's going to be allowed to do that as well. I think we're going to see a defensive enough start from Galway, and they'll be well organised too. But Mayo seems to be playing a bit more front foot sort of stuff this year as well. But they're also smart in that they are well able to drop into those positions too as well. So it's an interesting game to go to, like, and I am kind of finding it hard to predict this one a little bit, even though, like, I suppose Mayo have been the form team, you just say, but you do have to factor in as well, we're close to championship too. Will there be a bit of shadow boxing in here as well? Do Mayo play their full hand here as well? It's the other question too, with Roscommon coming up in a week's time.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. I think it's fair to say, Matthew, that coming into this game, both these sides have impressed me anyway. It's my personal take, in different ways. Mayo have impressed me in terms of their, rock and roll style of football, where, they're putting up, hugely entertaining games. The goals that they're getting from the likes of James Carr have been absolutely breathtaking. Whereas Galway have impressed me in the sense that they've really, picked up a knack now of grinding out victories, grinding out results. You look at the victory over Tyrone, like, you look at the victory over Armagh in particular, Matthew Tierney getting that late goal to, snatch victory for them there. Is it fair to say that they've almost impressed in different ways up until this final?
It definitely is, yeah. When you look at Galway's defence, and I checked it for definite, they're the third best defence in the whole National League, only behind Derry and Westmeath. So Galway like to keep the games, ticking over a small bit, but maybe that's because they were missing Walsh, Comer, Finnerty. Now they're back in the team. You kind of think Galway are tipping along very nicely. You look at Mayo, like I've been impressed with Mayo attack-wise throughout the season. Like their midfield partnership of O'Connor and Ruan driving up the field has been outstanding to watch. Jordan Flynn scored 11 points per play in this league campaign. Ryan O'Donoghue's done well. Keelan O'Connor has done well off the bench. Tommy Conroy coming back into the team as well. James Carr only scores Borderlies, as we said on my podcast before this as well. So, yeah, Mayo are tipping on nicely in the forward section. The defence is a bit of a worry. They conceded 7 goals and 81 points in 7 games. That's an average of over 10 points a game, an average of a goal a game. Compared to Galway, I think they've conceded way less than that anyway. They conceded 3 goals and 72 points. 3 goals, that's pretty good going for Galway. So I have to say, Galway will impress me defensively. Mayo will impress me attacking-wise. But if I was to say who's going to improve as the year goes on, Galway's attack or Mayo's defence, at the moment I'll actually go for Galway's attack because Matthew Tierney has been the only lad that has really hit the lights out with 3-14. But then you have lads coming back, Damien Comer, Robert Finnerty, Shane Walsh, Tom O'Golhan, Paul Conroy is going to hit form as well. Let's not forget Killian McDade wasn't playing against Mayo either. It was Maher in midfield alongside Conroy. So they have a lot of players to come back in Galway, and they showed last year that they do have the forward threat. And I think Galway, I know Mayo have performed better by the face of it, but I think Galway have more to build on, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's easier to start getting your attack firing when you have the likes of Shane Walsh, Robert Finnerty, Damien Comer coming back in than it is to strengthen up your defence, especially when you're Mayo and you lost the likes of Lee Keegan, Oisin Mullen. It's hard to make that defence so strong. But Luke, obviously, you touched on there in your first point about, the impending Connacht Championship, Roscommon coming up next. Which team do you think, how do you think the mindsets are of these teams going into this game? Do you think potentially they could be distracted by that? Or do you think both teams, that is out of sight, out of mind, they're focused on this game? Or how do you think their mindsets are going into this one?
I think it's different for the two. I think Galway can focus fully in this game. I think the pressure's not on them as much as well. Look, with the turnaround, but Mayo know that they're in a war the week after as well. Is that Roscommon, with the way this worked out for Roscommon, I think is absolutely perfect in the sense that, I know we're previewing the league final here as well, but just to touch this, that Roscommon beat Donegal by 21-9, I think it was at the weekend that they beat them, and so they got a really comfortable win. So they're absolutely flying. Their tails are up. Their self-belief as well has to be absolutely huge for them too. And then they get an extra week's rest, whereas Mayo have to go in, play what could be an absolute war in Croke Park against Galway, who they could be absolutely wrecked against afterwards. So that's the thing now is, does Max Day and do Rochford, does the Mayo management team, do they go out and play their full hand here? Do they play their championship team next week? I'm not fully sure. That's the big question for me, is that do they actually play the full championship 15? Because I think it's a big ask for them to play the full championship 15 in a national final this weekend, and then say to them, right, you're going to have to go out and play a match potentially of the same level of challenge the following week afterwards too. So I think Galway can go out and target this completely as a league final. But if Mayo don't have a few of the bigger names out, I wouldn't be shocked as well. And if they maybe aren't quite at the intensity that we've seen maybe earlier in the league, again, I wouldn't be shocked. And so that's the thing. I'll be interested to see how where they go for full-blooded, and if they do they suffer the consequences the week after against Roscommon?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely a fair point to make. Matthew, I'm interested to hear your thoughts on that as well. But before you answer that question, obviously one of the biggest things that surprised us at the start of the league campaign under Kevin McStay with Mayo was, of course, his positioning of Conor Loftus at centre-half back. Do you think that has been a good move so far? Do you think that has been maybe a bad move? Do you think they're going to continue with it? Do you think they're going to change it? And then do you think they're going to stick with it for this game? Because obviously Jason Doherty was there in the game against Monaghan.
Obviously, the stats doesn't suggest that it has been a good move because Mayo have conceded left, right and centre. But it looks at things. But I was seeing him against Tyrone and McKay Park, I was really impressed with him. Kerry, as well in McHale Park. They didn't give much space to those forward lines. Forward lines, let's not forget that Darren McCurry, Sean O'Shea, David Clifford, Darragh Roach, all them excellent forwards, Darragh Canavan, another. Mayo didn't give them enough space, to be honest with you. And when you look at their defenders all over as well, with Jack Owen, David McBrien has really impressed me at fullback. To answer your question, Conor Loftus, it is a strange one. Like Jason Doherty played centre back the other day against Monaghan, didn't really seem to solve the problem. They conceded 2 goals. Yeah, and they didn't. They conceded 2 sloppy goals at the end, and obviously Doherty got caught at the end for gallivanting up the field, and that is the danger, because you mentioned on my podcast as well, Seamus, that both of them are forwards by trade. They'd usually go up the field more than they would defend, so that's a big issue for me. And when you look at the defenders that actually go up the field for me, look at Enda Hessian making that inspiring one against Tyrone. Jack Coyne does a small bit. Donegal McHugh's got a few points to his name. Owen McLaughlin coming back to the team. So there will be, as the summer goes on, there's going to be players in the Mayo team that will go forward. That's just their nature. So you need the centre back and the full back to stay where they are, really. And I don't think Conor Loftus is kind of capable of that. He wants to join in the attack, same as Jason Doherty. So early on ways, it does seem to work after maybe 3 or 4 games. But as the league has gone on, you kind of start to see the flaws within this system with McStay.
That's exactly what Luke said, about how if you're going to do that thing with Loftus, you need a dedicated, set, sitting centre half back beside him.
Yeah, you would definitely. And I'd say the obvious candidate for that is Stephen Cohen. Yeah. He might not have been a brilliant player over the last few years, but why is he playing wing back? He has to play centre back. He's the best that Mayo have in that position. Maybe like Conor Loftus at number 5 or something, but then you have Paddy Durkin as the team. So if you're pushing Cohen to centre back, does that mean Loftus goes off the team? Because in my opinion, he doesn't go up in the forwards or in the midfield at the moment, because I think Mayo's midfield is set already with O'Connor and Ruan. So that's the danger with Conor Loftus going out of the team. So if Conor Loftus is going to start, it's going to be centre back. It's not going to be any other place, because I can't see him dislodging Durkin or McLaughlin in the half-back line, at wing-backs especially.
Yeah, I agree with you. And then just to get your opinions on who you think will take this game more seriously and how the mindsets will be going into this one before the Connacht Championship.
It would have to be Galway, because as Luke rightly mentioned, Galway, they can rest for another 2-3 weeks before their game against either Mayo or Roscommon. The game against Roscommon is going to be so crucial to Mayo, because when you look at, I'll take an example, in 2019, they played a league final against Kerry, blew them out of the water in Croke Park. A few weeks later, Roscommon blew them out of the water in McHale Park. That's the danger. And I'm telling you, like Roscommon, they're a pretty good side, pretty good defensively organised as well. They seem to keep the score down as well. So I think, honestly, Galway are probably going to win the game because they're going to take the game more seriously. There is an argument that Kevin McStay wants a trophy. But I suppose those go back to the argument, would you rather a Connacht title or a league title? Aaron on GFan TV actually argued that the Connacht title means nothing nowadays. But when you look at the way the All-Ireland is structured in the qualifiers, if you're in pot 3 or 4, you could easily get a really tough draw. Let's say you get Kerry and an Ulster finalist, let's just say, for argument's sake, Armagh. And if Armagh improve as the summer goes on, that's 2 tough sides in your group. And then in pot 4, you could easily get a Kildare who could kick into form then. So that's a very tough goal for Mayo to get out of then, and suddenly they're in a bit of trouble. So I still think the Connacht Championship means something to them. So for that reason, I think Galway will probably take the game more seriously, because their game is in about 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, no, I do tend to agree with that. So lads, official prediction time for the Division 1 final of 2023. Luke, I'm going to come to you first. Can Mayo win their first one since 2019, or can Galway win their first Division 1 title since, would you believe, 1981? Which one are you kind of looking at to take this one?
I think Mayo will go for full-blooded. I think they will actually go for it, and I think they will win it. I think based on form and where they're at, I think, look, you're still looking at Galway. My little concern with Galway is that they're still kind of throwing in players into the team. Like, I think, look, the last day as well, you just see John Maher was in, Keane Hernan was in. There's players like that like haven't really been around and are kind of coming in and out a little bit. And yeah, when they get the full 15 back, I think they have a better team than Mayo, that when they have everyone back, but they're still just a little bit unsettled at the moment. So I just think Mayo are in a better place at the moment. So I'm going to go Mayo to win this, but I would say just watch out the week after that. If this turns into be what like such a tight contest, which I think it will, they might have a few issues against Roscommon the week after as well. So I will go at Mayo for this weekend, but just I'll be interested to see how it pans out after.
Yeah. Matthew?
Yeah, I'm going to go against Luke for this one. I'm going to go for Galway because I think they'll take the game more seriously. And when you look at Galway throughout the league campaign, yes, their performances and scoring stats have been inconsistent and pretty bad. But when you look at it in black and white paper, the only game they lost was to Roscommon. And that was a game where Damien Comer went off injured earlier on. That would have just shocked the players. So I genuinely think Galway are motoring along nicely. Mayo, yes, they've won games, and the Monaghan game didn't matter, but maybe this is a game where they'll get shell-shocked completely. And I genuinely think, to go back to my point earlier, I think Galway will take the game more seriously. I think that might be the difference in this day to win the Division 1 title.
Yeah, I think they should take it more seriously like that. And I think if I was Mayo, I think you probably shouldn't go full-blooded for it as well. I just have a feeling that I think they might. I think that they really might. That after everything they put into the league, so I think that they'll want to win it, I think, as well. So it'll be interesting to see how it pans out. But it's a failure in the structure is the overall point here as well, is that Mayo should be in a position where they should be able to go out full-blooded in a competition that they've been the best team so far in as well. So they should be in a position that they should be able to go for it without having a fear of Roscommon next week.
Completely agree with that. Couldn't agree more with that. That's definitely a failure on the structure. But sure, we've talked about that for, till the cows come home like we could. I'm going to go with Galway as well. I'm for similar reasons as Matthew. I'm going to go with Galway narrowly. I just think they've shown me that they can really grind out results in this league campaign, and with Mayo potentially having one eye on the Roscommon game. I know that Mayo will probably go for it, but I think Galway, with Shane Walsh, Comer, Finnerty all coming back, I think they're going to hit their form and pick up this. I could be wrong though. Mayo could easily take this. It's that close. Like, the games between these sides have been back and forth, and I think either of them could take it. But I am going to narrowly lean towards Galway in this one. So we're going to move on then to the Division 2 final. This is the Division 2 final preview here on Play on GAA, and it is obviously between Derry and Dublin. So, Luke, I'm going to go to you first for this one. Obviously, Dublin's league campaign in Division 2, what have you actually made of it? It's reminded me a lot of Cavan in Division 4 last year, where we've just kind of done enough to get out of the division. We haven't really blown anyone away. We haven't really proved that. We haven't had the arrogance that Mayo had when they got promoted out of Division 2 last year. 2 years ago, where they blew teams away and it was clear that they were too good for the division. We've kind of just won games and then got into the promotion places. And of course, losing to Derry as well.
Yeah, look, I think it's been pretty uninspiring is how I describe it. And that, I think Dublin needed a good league campaign where they blooded new players. And look, we're going to get into it now in a second as well. The question's going to come up about, but we're looking at a situation where Dublin are looking back to old players as well. They've won them tournaments in the past as well. And that's the unfortunate reality for Dublin fans at the moment, is that give it another year as well, that when the likes of Fitzsimons, the likes of McCarthy do start to go, the players aren't there to replace them at the moment. And I think what this league has overall shown is that the backup isn't really there. Yeah, when Dublin get back to later on in the championship, when they get the first 15 out and all these older players are playing as well, they're all fully fit as well. They've got a team that can rival anyone, but the backup just isn't there for them at the moment. I've said it before here a few times now, that I'm not a fan of the style of play. I think it's way more defensive than what it needs to be. I think the build-up's the most frustrating part for me, is that Dublin, I think, are the slowest team transition going. I haven't seen a team that attacks slower than Dublin, and it just doesn't really make any sense to me when you look at the speed of the players Dublin have available. So that's the disappointing part of the league, is that I do think that they could, there's no issue dropping players back into these positions as well and having a good defensive structure, but it's just a complete lack of ability to break at speed. And that's why Dublin are gone from a position now where we used to be putting 4 goals and 20 something points past teams in Leinster, to now at a stage now where last week against Louth it was 115. So that's why the scorelines are kind of starting to go that way as well a little bit. And overall I think it's I still think that they've a good shot of winning at the weekend. I think that I think when it comes to predictions later on, I think you'll find like I will be going towards Dublin. I think just because of the players that are coming back in, I think the quality of their first 15, I think is still good enough to be winning Division 2 titles, even though Derry are flying at the moment. But like I wouldn't be, I don't think you can look at it and think that, look, Dublin are banging on the door as being all-Ireland contenders right now.
Yeah, and just before we do actually get into the actual game preview, I am going to throw back the obvious one, Stephen Cluxton's return. What did you make of it? The timing of the news, like bit of it, definitely probably one of the most out of the blue things I've seen in the GAA for quite a while.
Yeah, look, it's staggering really, and that's the thing is that I think Desi was asked afterwards, and he said that Cluxton's been in a few weeks training with the panel, but I don't even think that's true, to be honest. I think that there's no way that if Cluxton was back as well, there'd be at least kind of whispers within Dublin GAA that he was back in. You see all the past players talking about it as well. I think Paddy Andrews was on commentary duty for the game, and he was told that Cluxton was playing, and he was absolutely shocked as well. So there's not a hope that Cluxton's been in there long. So it does seem to be something that's just kind of popped up and that they've just decided upon. So look, there's no way of knowing how it's going to work out later on the year, if it's a master stroke, if it's or if it's kind of going to be a situation where it creates a bit of angst between the goalkeepers and that, like O'Hanlon. I don't know. I don't know how O'Hanlon reacts to it as well. I think, look, it's great to have him back in as well, considering that, look, I think everybody will say that's a Dublin fan is that he's the best keeper that we've seen. But it's a strange call, and it's kind of strange timing too. So, look, I'm just kind of in shock at it as well. And I wouldn't be expecting him to get game time at the weekend at all now. I know he played a challenge game midweek for Dublin, but just it'd be very, very harsh on O'Hanlon if he's dropped for the league final after all the work he does. But I don't know. I'm not fully sure what the plan here is. Whether to expect Cluxton standing goal come championship, I really don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm the same. Matthew, what's your thoughts on this news of Cluxton's return?
Instant shock, to be honest with you. I have to say, David O'Hanlon, and I've said this before on Aaron's podcast, and I'll say it again. David O'Hanlon's probably been Dublin's player of the league. So the timing has been strange, in all honesty. Why bring Cluxton back when O'Hanlon's played excellent so far? If you're bringing him as a coach, I think you mentioned this on my podcast, Seamus, so I completely agree with you. If you're bringing him as a coach, fine, because you're learning off the best, same as what Mayo are learning off Kieran MacDonald over the past few seasons. That's fine. But if you're bringing him as a player, he's 41 years of age now. And I've seen some Dublin fans like Aaron themselves complain about the likes of Johnny Cooper, Mick Fitzsimons being so slow and things like that at an older age. Cluxton's way older than him. So why bring him back into the team? And just the way he quit the panel as well, it was unexpected after the training breach. I didn't think he'd come back after that. I thought he just distanced himself, and it looked as if he was gone. But it was the most Cluxton-esque thing ever just to come back into the team. And it was strange in many ways. I was surprised to see it, especially in the last league game against Louth. And when you think about it, Paul Mannion actually
came on to come back for as well. Promotion's already secured. There's nothing going on the game, really. I know that if Louth had beaten Dublin, that they would have potentially leapfrogged Dublin into the promotion places. But such a weird, he didn't come back at the start of the season. He came back in the last game of the league. Just a strange one to come back for.
But it's a kick in the teeth as well, though, for Mick Shield as the backup keeper too. Is that in the interview afterwards? Is that Desi said that we were always in contact with Stephen, and that if there was ever an emergency, that we'd call on him. But Mick Shield's been the backup goalkeeper for a while, kind of now, and so you'd have to wonder does he have absolutely no faith in Mick Shield at all, or does he not have faith in O'Hanlon as well? And that's the kind of it's the way it was worded afterwards that I'm not really sure what this emergency is. That what's different now to what it was maybe a year ago. If he was always willing to come back in an emergency, why are we saying now? So that's the bit I'm struggling to get my head around a little bit. And it will be interesting to see how it works, the dynamic in the dressing room. Obviously I think he's the best keeper that I've ever seen, and that's the thing as well. It just does seem a bit strange that And like, I don't know, you'd wonder a little bit, like, that Desi was coming in trying to put his own stamp on things as well. That he nearly does have to go back to the tried and trusted as well. And look, Cluxton, like, is an absolute perfectionist, and that he's going to demand certain standards in that Dublin dressing room. And I'm not fully sure if the same standards are there in the dressing room from the Jim Gavin era. So, like, how does he react? Does he stay involved in the setup which isn't as professional as what it was a few years ago as well? That's the other question I have too, is that, like, it's clearly not as good a setup as what he's used to anyway with Dublin. So there's all these question marks. And I think, look, the hope has to be is that him coming back in sets the example and sets the thing and brings a bit of passion back into Dublin a little bit, because they are playing a little bit without it at the moment, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Now let's get into Derry. I'm going to come to you, Matthew, for this. Obviously, our opponents in this league final, a side that nearly had 7 out of 7, perfect swish in Division 2 back up before. Obviously, Cork had something to say about that. But what have you made of them in the league campaign so far? They have been excellent.
They've been unreal. Well, you look at the attacking wise and defensive wise, they've been outstanding. And an interesting start that just came into me. There are 3 goals conceded, only 1 in the first half. So Dublin will have to work very hard to get a goal in that first 35 minutes. The only team to do it was Louth. And when you look at the other 2, Ian Maguire, the 78 minutes of the game, and Meads, I think it was Aaron Lynch, when it didn't even matter. So, like, Derry's defence has been absolutely incredible. I think they've been the best defence in the whole National League, 69 points overall. Shane McGuigan's the top scorer, the top 2 divisions. So they're definitely excelling up front as well. 117 from play. Niall Toner has got goals at crucial times, as shown in Celtic Park against Dublin. So it's just their ability, really, to play their own game against opponents. It's absolutely incredible. The team is so settled at the moment. You would have thought Brendan Rodgers might have been misplaced with Owen McAvoy coming into full back, but easily he goes into midfield alongside Conor Glass. And again, like, Emmett Bradley can't get into this team. That's what you all need to know. An incredible footballer, can't get near the team, to be honest with you. And you look at Shane McGuigan, you look at Benny Heron, Niall Loughlin, all of them are chipping in. And you have the mastermind behind it, Rory Gallagher, as well. He's an outstanding coach. And I think if you go back to even the end of January last year, Derry have only lost to 1 team, Galway. They haven't lost to any other team, which is an incredible record. Really good records, in fairness, across McKenna Cup, League, Championship, everything. And I will say that. But you mentioned an interesting point in my podcast, Seamus, about Derry being in Croke Park the last time against Galway. They were blown out of the water, especially in the second half in that game. But then again, the goal stat, it definitely goes into that game as well, because they didn't concede a goal in first half against Galway either. It was just when they opened up a small bit, Galway pounced. And that was the difference. But I genuinely think, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, Derry have the vibes of Donegal in 2012. 2011, they were a bit inexperienced going to Croke Park. This year, they're well set for it. And I think they're a very, very good side. I honestly think they've been one of the top teams in the league so far, if you count Mayo, Galway. Now, Kerry and Dublin, looking at their form so far, I don't think they've been near the levels of Derry so far. It might be an unpopular opinion, but I genuinely think that way. And I think Derry, they'll be all raring to go again. And they were lucky not to get the 100% record last day. Let's not forget, they were 8 points up against Cork with 24 minutes to go. They probably should have closed that game out. They didn't. That would frustrate Rory Gallagher going into the game. But at the same time, they'll be rearing for this challenge against Dublin and Croke Park. Can't get any much tougher than that.
Yeah, without doubt. And I definitely would have given them a little slap on the wrist, because, as I said on your pod, Matthew, that's the type of situation that Derry have found themselves in every game that they've played, pretty much comfortably ahead with 15 minutes to go. You know, all but the Dublin game really in Division 2 has gone like that. And they must have kind of almost developed a bit of a cruise control kind of mentality in that Cork game, where they thought, we know how to do this. We'll close this game out. They took their eye off the ball and Cork punished them for it. So I feel like, Luke, give me your opinion on that. Do you think that the Cork game will have taught them a lesson? But then what have you made of Derry in the league campaign as well? And obviously touch on the victory over Dublin.
Yeah, look, I wouldn't be too worried about last week as well. If you look at that was the first time I think that we've seen so far that Rory Gallagher kind of shifted the team a little bit and rotated around a little bit too. So if you look at the players that they had on the pitch at the time as well, they were missing a good few for that kind of late comeback too. So I wouldn't be too concerned about that. But to draw on that point more, I would be concerned about the amount of running that he's already required of that team. And look, it's largely the same group of players is the thing. And when you factor in the Glen,
I'm sure he had Conor Glass back in 10
Yeah,
minutes
and look,
after he
that's the
finished
thing.
playing with the Glen.
yeah, and look, that's the thing. It's like I am surprised that he still has had Glass involved and stuff in these in all these games as well towards the end, and that there's been no break whatsoever. So that's the only thing I'd be a little bit concerned about is that look, they've had a great league as well, but when they go up to Ulster, All Ireland, it's a long season as well. Do they have enough time to take off everything as well? And that's the thing as well. And for these players as well, that they, even when this season's done, they'll go straight back to the club and everything like that as well. There's no break whatsoever for some of them. So I do think that it's been a brilliant league. It's been a really, really good league. They couldn't have gone better, the league, for them as well. Have they judged it correctly is my question about them as well. And I just think that as the season goes on, when you get to Croke Park as well, I think that they will probably be I think they'll be caught by, I think the likes of Kerry will start to come good and teams like that as well. And it's a long season for Derry playing at that level and maintaining those standards every week, because I don't think they can get a whole lot better than what they're at the moment. I don't think they've anywhere. I think they're at their ceiling at the moment. I think they're playing as good as they can. So can they maintain that for the year? I'm not fully sure. So that's the thing I'd have about their league as well. But look, they've been brilliant in the league, and if you look at their performances, they probably do deserve to win the Division 2 title. Whether they actually do at the weekend, though, I'm not fully sure.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a good point about trying to manage your season and make sure that you don't peak too early. But yeah, lads, so decision time, prediction, Matthew, Dublin or Derry to take the Division 2 crown?
I'm gonna go. I said in Celtic Park that game, I said Dublin, it'll be the weekend that they'll fire. And it came back to home. I thought at half time, I was thinking, I'm a prediction God here, Dublin are going to win it. But eventually Derry got over the line. I'm going to do the same thing again. I know it's risky, but I'm going to go for Dublin. I just feel there's too much quality. I get Luke's point about the aren't as them Dublin players coming up through the ranks aren't as good as the likes of McCaffrey, Mannion, all them players. They're still quality players though. They've 22 different scores in Division 2. There's still some quality there. They still have Mannion. They still have McCaffrey. Killen O'Gara hit form against Meath. And that game against Meath, I thought they were exceptional at times. The midfield with Brian Fenton, Tom Lahiff is still a very good player. David O'Hanlon's excelling in goal. You have a steady player, Mick Fitzsimons there. If Owen Merchant gets fitness back, I think he is a very speedy operator, very good player as well. You have McCarthy, you have John Small there, centre back, who I think is one of the best defenders in the country. So I still think Dublin have a lot of firepower and they're too good to be on this kind of inconsistent run of form. So I'm just going to go Dublin to tip it in this game and Derry to focus on the Ulster Championship.
Yeah, no, I do agree with you. I'm going with Dublin to take this one. I just feel like we're going to learn from our mistakes in the last game where we took the foot off the gas, let Derry get back into the game. Luke, is it a Dublin sweep or are you going for Derry?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Dublin as well by a point. And I don't think Dublin's style lends itself to blowing teams like away or anything like that as well. I don't think Dublin will score a goal. I think Derry's record will continue. But I think as well, they might just about edge it out as well. I think, look, you look up in the Celtic Park game that was up there in Derry. Dublin missing some players too as well. And look, if that ball is played across the Costello, Dublin win that game anyway as well. So like Dublin, with that as well, without the Croke Park factor as well, probably should have won up there too. I think they'll have just about enough. And the big game players are all back. They're all a bit fitter there now as well. So I think they'll get Dublin over the line at the weekend.
Yeah, no, I agree. So we're going to move down now to Division 3. This is the Division 3 League Final preview here on Play on GAA between Fermanagh and Cavan, the Ulster rivals. And before we actually get into this, we have a comment here about this game from Test Case. He says, Seamus Fermanagh's attack has been okay with Sean Quigley, Darren McGurn, Conal Jones, Kieran Corrigan. That could be threatening to the Cavan defence on Sunday. I'm going to come to you, Matthew, for that one first. Fermanagh's attack has been really, really good. They've scored 2 goals in 3 of their games, and they've been really, really, really good so far in the league campaign.
They are 890 overall, 113 per game. They've been absolutely incredible, and they aren't as reliant on Shaw quickly as they have been in previous years. That's the most impressive thing about the Armagh team at the moment. Olsen Ken comment on him, 212 overall for play. Incredible record, and definitely one of the players of Division 3, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a team of the league at the end of the year, the official team. He's been absolutely that good. Ryan Lyons has been very good. Aidan Breen, Dar McGurn, Ryan Jones, Garvin Jones. They've been incredible. And you look at Josh Largo-Willis and Kieran Carbon there as well. And they've done all this scoring without Conor Love as well, who, in my opinion, was one of the best forwards in the Fermanagh Senior Football Championship. In his skill and gains, I thought it was incredible. And definitely a shoo-in for the Fermanagh team. They've done it all without him. And that just shows you what an incredible job that Kieran Donnelly is doing at the moment. Their attack has been pretty good at the moment. And when you talk about Sean Quigley, yes, he's only scored 3 goals from play. But 2 of those goals were absolutely crucial at crucial times against Down in stoppage time and his Antrim both to win the game. It's incredible timing from him, and definitely a timeless player. Just before we leave this comment now, like when you look at their attack, okay, it's been good, but their defence has been pretty leaky. They've conceded 11 goals in 7 games. To be honest, that's not really good enough in Division 3. Like they conceded 3 goals against Antrim, 3 goals against Down. That's 3 goals conceded in 2 games in a row. Now that's not really good enough for a promotion. So even against Cavan the last game, they conceded 2 goals and 2 maybe avoidable ones at that same time as well. So I think there's going to be goals for Cavan in this game. But the question is, can Fermanagh's forwards fire? If Fermanagh's forwards can fire, I think they have a real chance of winning the game.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you. Definitely, conceding 11 goals is very, very concerning for Fermanagh's defence, and you need to sort that out quickly. So that's obviously Fermanagh touched on. Luke, Cavan for you. Is it fair to say that Cavan in this league campaign, they kind of did their work in the first 5 games and then maybe took their foot off the gas in the last 2? But what have you made of them? Because they were very impressive in the first 5 games, and then they just lose to Antrim, which I don't think anyone really saw coming, and then they lost to Fermanagh.
Yeah, look, and that's the thing is that, I think the Antrim game in particular was a bit of a shock because at the time they weren't actually even fully guaranteed. I don't think at the time in that game as well. Look, the way results panned out, they were grand getting into the final as well. But they were flat in the day as well. But look, I think Cavan, they started very, very well in the league anyway as well. There was a lot of talk as well what the impact of losing Galligan and that sort of. And those sort of questions that came with that as well. But look, I think you know what you're going to get with Cavan, and that's the thing is that you know the quality of player they have. There's still that good core of that Ulster Championship winning team that's there as well. And adding on to that as well, like I do think that Paddy Lynch is as good a forward that you're going to see as well. So look, they've scores in them as well. I think just to briefly touch on that Fermanagh forward line as well, the really interesting thing they've done, like Olsen Kelm was initially a wing back that he kind of went in as far as I remember, and there's a lot of those games he's been playing nearly as one man on his own up there as well as a target man kind of figure in there as well. So it's really interesting approach there as well. And I like your man Darren McGurn as well, like an absolutely huge man as well. That can kick scores from outside the 45. So no, I do like that Fermanagh attack, but I think Cavan have this kind of streetwise nature about them as well. And the question is, look, I know they've just played each other as well. Can you read anything into that game? Not really sure at all. And I think it's a different situation going to Croke Park. Cavan are well familiar with Croke Park at this stage as well. They've played a good few games there now in recent years. So, yeah, look, I know which way I'll be leaning, and even despite kind of recent results and everything like that as well. Seamus, we can't hear you.
Right, that's embarrassing, but we'll carry on with that. Of course, it's a good point that you make about the Division 4 final. We'll breeze past that. But so Croke Park, of course, the last time the Cavan were in it, they lost the Tailteann Cup final to Westmeath. Time before that, they beat Tipperary in the Division 4 final. And I can't believe I did that, but we'll carry on. The Division 3 final official prediction from the GAA Statsman, Matthew. What are you thinking?
I'm going to go for Fermanagh. Fermanagh beating Cavan twice out of the last 2 attempts. Like they beat them in 2021 when Quigley and Corrigan were doing bits that time, and they also beat them in the last game of the league. So I think that form will continue. I think Fermanagh will have enough for Cavan.
Yeah, no, definitely a good point. Luke, I assume that you're leaning towards Cavan?
Yeah, I'm just going to be contrarian and go Cavan. So, no, look, I just think in these Croke Park games, Cavan seem to grind out results in them as well. Yeah, look, the form book, last 2 games, I just don't know if how much I can read into it as well. They're one of these funny sides, Cavan, as well. That they blow hot and cold sometimes as well. But yeah, no, like I think like Matthew was saying, the leaky defense as well. There, you'd like to think that sitting down to watch this now anyway on Saturday night, that it'll be a bit of a shootout anyway. And that's, look, if you can get a good wide open game anyway as well, which is, look, it's mad to think, is that, just to briefly touch on it, Fermanagh, what we've seen from Fermanagh in recent years as well has been teak tough defense where they've got huge numbers back. And I think that's the biggest achievement of management so far here now, is how this kind of transformation into a free flowing attacking side. And the fact that that's been done already as well, in comparisons to football they were playing last year as well. I think it's been an absolute triumph of a league so far as well. And look, they've got themselves promoted anyway as well up to Division 2. And look, Championship football and everything like that as well. It's been an absolutely brilliant season so far. But I think Cavan might grind out the league title anyway at the weekend. But I don't think either team be too fussed about it.
Yeah, for me, Cavan, I'm going to go with them by about 2 or 3 points. I just think that they will use their experience, they'll use their nous, and they will get the victory. So that's the Division 3 final previewed. We're going to go to the last division then, Division 4, Sligo against Wicklow. So I'm coming to you for this one first, Matthew. This game, of course, between two sides that it's safe to say in Division 4 bounced back from defeats, bounced back from bumps in the road really, really well. Do you think Sligo's league campaign started off with a 6-point defeat at home to Laois, and since then they've been flawless, really?
They have been. And even look at how Sligo put away teams. They've been absolutely incredible. Like they beat Wicklow, let's not forget, a match day 2 by 6 points, 18 points to 12. And what I noticed about this Sligo team, they score a lot of points on the board. They don't necessarily score goals. As per se, they scored 5 goals in 7 games, but 105 points in 7 games as well. That's an incredible scoring statistic there. You have Pat Spillane, who scored 210 from play, Sean Carabine, who's hitting them from left, right, and centre. Like, they really blitzed teams in the last few weeks. They blitzed Waterford, London. Like, it was a comfortable win there. Wexford, despite Wexford getting 3 goals, Sligo scored 120 themselves, which is good enough to win any game there. Carlow did pretty well there. Leitrim, they got the points at the right times to get them over the line. And even last year, Sligo were hitting the lights out with points. Like, I remember, I'm not sure of the exact score against Carlow last year in the league, but I think they scored 28 points. Correct me if I'm wrong now, but that was an incredible scoring statistic there as well. So Sligo have done this under Tony McEntee for the last 2 seasons. They've been incredible in front of the goal. They've been very good, very compact defensively since the Laois game. They conceded 2 goals against Laois, sloppily enough, but they conceded 3 against Wexford. But they've only conceded goals against Laois, Wexford, and Leitrim. That's 3 games. In the other 4 games, they conceded no goals, especially in the one in Auckland. They conceded no goals either. And we talk about Wicklow in a minute, but Wicklow are a goal-getting team. So that'll be crucial for Sligo to keep those goals out. If they can do that, I think they'll win this game. And they have some very good forwards. Definitely delighted to go out and watch them on Saturday night. Yeah,
no, without doubt. I think, obviously, Luke, it's a great point that Matthew made, bringing up how many points Sligo have scored, 105. Wicklow, on the other hand, as mentioned, has scored only 86 points. They have scored 9 goals, though. And I think, is it a fair statement to say that if Wicklow are going to win this game, they have to score at least 2, maybe 3 goals?
Yeah, look, I think so. And that's you look at results recently as well. I think it is leaning towards Sligo, that especially up in Croke Park as well. Sligo, I think, are a side that would suit it better as well. You look at the forwards that they have on display. You compare the forwards to the 2 teams as well, and that it does look like that Sligo will be scoring as well. And that's the thing, is that I do fear for Wicklow with the matchup a little bit as well. I know we talked about there the 6-point turnaround scoreline the previous game as well, but you look at the 2 cornerbacks that Sligo have as well. Really impressed with Mullen at cornerback as well. Watched a good bit of him in Sigerson Cup as well playing. He kind of played out wing forward for NUIG a lot more, but he's a very, very good man marker. And then Lyons in the other corner as well. They just have a very, very solid back line as well. So that's the thing is, I think, look, Wicklow will struggle to get goals. They beat Waterford the last day by 6 points. Waterford are probably the worst team in Ireland at the moment as well. So it's not exactly like they've got themselves promoted, and I don't think many would have backed Oisin McConville in his first year to get them promoted straight away. So look, I think they've just had an absolutely brilliant league campaign, but I would fear for them a little bit at the weekend. I think the Sligo in a wide open pitch in Croker could turn it on a little bit. And I think, look, when you have to deal with forwards like Carabine, Niall Murphy as well, and then look, you Spillane in around there as well, that they just seem to have huge talent in that Sligo team. So I do think that this is probably the game that I find easiest to predict at the weekend.
Yeah, so Sligo all around, lads. Is that what we're going with?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going with Sligo as well. I just think their point scoring, I'm expecting them to score at least 18 points. And I don't know if Wicklow will be able to get the goals that they need to get in this game. So I am going to go with Sligo, but if Wicklow pull it off, it would be one hell of a victory. And obviously the rivalry between Oisin McConville and Tony McEntee on the sideline, two Armagh men. And when you look at McGeeney with Armagh, you wonder, are they eyeing up that job? So that is the full preview, guys, here on Play on GAA for the Allianz Football League's Finals of 2023. Thank you so much for giving us your time. Our thanks, of course, to Matthew Hurley, the GAA Statsman. Do check him out. His handle is there underneath his name across all social media platforms. So, guys, that's the preview. Thank you so much for giving us your time. And until the next one, take care.